Jason. He's going to share, can I give them a little bit of the lore about last year this time? Okay, he's got a teaser to tell you, but super proud of you, Jason.
All right, so Jordan, you texted me like a week and a half ago, asked if I would be on this panel and share my story. And, I wrote you back right away. I was like, of course I'll do it, right? But I didn't really realize until last night just how special it really is for me to be up here. Because, it was this event last year when I really started to take my relationship with God seriously. And, I remember it so clearly because I just started going back to church, and this was my second WDS event. It was my first summit night. I came here, didn't really know what to expect. And when I saw how on fire that everyone was for God, I knew that I had to be part of that. So, I just want to thank not just Jordan, but everyone here for, giving me this community. But with that being said, my story starts with a door that God opened in my life. For those of you who don't know me, I go to a hockey academy. So the way it works is we have teachers who help us with our schoolwork through an online program. And then they kind of build like ice time and a workout into our schedule. So a lot of the kids who go to my school, they play for my organization, but they stay with host families because they live like across the world. So I was talking to some of these kids at school one day, and it turns out that they are Christian, but it's hard for them to grow their faith living so far from home. So I kind of felt like a call to action from God that, I needed to help these people. And I decided to start a Bible study. So I was nervous doing this at first, kind of being newer to spreading God's word. But after talking with Jordan and Corey and Jason and all the leaders here, I realized that this was my calling and I wasn't going to waste it. So, but something happened to me. So all this is going on. I think that our first meeting, it was just me and 2 other kids. But by the end of the school year, it had grown. We had like 15 kids sitting in on this Bible study. So it was really cool to me to not just see the growth of the group, but all the individuals as well. Because, all these kids were coming to me with all their questions and concerns and things they're going through. And, it was really, really cool and really special to be part of that. So even as all this is going on and I'm, growing my faith and starting this Bible study, something still felt missing in my life. And, I tried to fill that void with all of my worldly desires. And that led me feeling really anxious and down, and it kind of lowered my self-esteem. But something happened to me a couple months ago where God really opened my eyes to my whole situation. And every time I get in the car, I load up Spotify and I listen to music. So this particular time I get in the car and I plug in my phone and this random podcast starts playing. And I'm like, what in the world? Back then I would never listen to podcasts. But it was a Bryce Crawford podcast talking about lukewarmness in your faith. And everything that Bryce Crawford talked about in the podcast, it applied to my own life. And I don't believe in coincidences. God showed me that because I needed to hear it. And he was showing me that I felt that hole because I hadn't fully given myself to him. And that was a hard thing to face, especially while I'm trying to lead others and lead this Bible study. But the moment that I stopped treating my relationship with God like a performance in a transactional relationship, and just accepted that, I am a sinner and Jesus died on the cross for me, for my sin, my faith took off in a way that I had never experienced. And it was something that Pastor Johnny said this morning. He said, the only way to, I think it was the only way to find joy is through Christ, or something like that. And, that really spoke to me. But, in the past couple of months, God's been sending me a lot of challenges, and he's been talking to me in a ton of ways. And prior to this event, that would happen. I'd be like, God, why is this happening to me? I don't understand. But now I do. And it was to pull me closer to him. And it's about trusting God, trusting that what he has in store for you is more important than what you want. And, sorry, I'm lost off track here. But, at the end of the day, it's just about trusting God. And, God didn't just open a door for me to show his word to others, but he used that same season to do a deep work inside of me. And that's a loving God. One doesn't just use you, but will transform you in the process. So now that the school year is over, I've started recording the Bible studies and sending them out to people. If anyone here wants those videos, hit me up. But, you know, what God taught me is that you don't need to have it all together to come to Him. And you just need to let people see what happens when a real God gets a hold of a real life.
Attaboy, Jason!